So good morning, friends. You just saw the best of German engineering in this video today. A hearty welcome to the web seminar on uplifting business opportunities during the pandemic, being organized by the German Engineering Federation, VDMA, along with our competent partners, Continental Automotive Brake System India Private Limited, Schmerzal India, Mahindra World City, and Antwerp Port Authority. Pleasure and honor for me to welcome our chief guest today, Dr. Stefan Grabherr, Deputy Head of Mission, Embassy of the Federal Republic of Germany. I extend a warm welcome to our speakers also today, Mr. Sagar Bhosle from Schmerzal India, MD Schmerzal India, Mr. Krishan Kohli, MD Continental Automotive Brake Systems, Mr. Vaibhav Mittal, Business Head Mahindra World City, Mr. Elmar Ockenfels, and Ms. Malini Dutt from Antwerp Port Authority. Friends, the last 8 months have been truly unprecedented. For the first time in modern history, supply, demand, and workforce have all been impacted, all at the same time, and not only in one region, but right across the globe. COVID-19 has infected almost 60 million people and has claimed more than 1.4 million lives. After the setback suffered in the last 8 months due to the pandemic, is India back on the path of recovery now? Well, the Manufacturers Purchasing Managers Index, PMI, for October 2020 surged to 58.9, which was the highest reading since May 2010, that is more than 10 years. Manufacturing sector conditions in the country continue to improve, with companies raising output to a 13-year high amidst robust sales growth. Companies appear convinced that resurgence in sales will sustain over the coming months. Confidence on the outlook for the year ahead has improved as firms hope that COVID-19 cases will abate and more business activities would resume. Though October growth was largely led by intermediate goods category, but there was also robust expansion in consumer and investment goods subsector. After the sharp contraction of 23.9% in Q1, there has been multi-speed normalization of activities in Q2. In fact, the FMCG sector has registered a 1.6% growth in the second quarter against 19% decline in Q1, with e-commerce and rural economy growing at a faster rate. The GST collection in October grew by 10% to reach rupees 1.05 lakh crores. Our consumption surged by 13%, while petrol and diesel sales rose 4% and 6.6% in October. Our companies hit the fast lane, reporting sales racing up by 18%. While exporters across sectors are hoping the pandemic will abate soon, many are optimistic that if certain glitches such as lack of availability of containers and uncertainty over export incentives are addressed, it will give them the much needed boost. We hope that the decline in exports in the month of October does not form the trend line in midst of second serious wave of coronavirus in several countries in Europe, including Germany, France, and UK, with several of these economies being subjected to yet another soft lockdown. We may see headwinds buffeting the global trade. Friends, coming to Germany, in Germany, the order intake in mechanical engineering sector returned its recovery course in September 2020. Although they were still 10% down on previous year's level, this was still in line with the expectations. However, for the first time since January of this year, domestic orders were up 4% thanks to a low 2019 level. The 3 months of June to August yielded a cumulative decline of 14% on export side and a drop of around 17% on the import side. The good crisis management in Taiwan and South Korea is also reflected in the machinery exports from Germany to the two Asian countries. Both countries recorded the highest absolute growth rates from January to August 2020. Taiwan plus 70 million euros or 8.2% compared to the same period last year, and South Korea 51 million euros plus or 2.7% compared to the same period last year. For the months July to September 2020, 6 of the total of the 27 branches of industry separately invoiced in the VDMA order intake statistics showed an increase year on year. These sectors were agriculture machinery, fluid power, material handling, elevators and escalators, textile machinery, and thermal process technology. On the other hand, foundry machinery, textile care, fabric, and leather technologies, and process engineering machinery had to accept order declines of 30% or more. The prevailing conditions have slowed the bilateral trade with German machinery exports to India for the first 8 months of 2020, dipping by around 18%. However, as the situation in India improves, we are hopeful that the pent-up demand and the resilient domestic market in India will propel a sharp rebound in the financial year 21-22, with India's growth forecast being around 8 to 9%. I would now like to invite our chief guest, Dr. Stefan Grabherr, Deputy Head of Mission, German Embassy, to address us, and we look forward to hearing his views on the future of Indo-German industrial collaboration. Dr. Grabherr, we look forward to your address now.
Yeah, thank you very much and good morning to everybody. I hope you can hear me and you can see me now. We are live in the air. So thank you very much for your very kind introductory words, Natji, and thank you very much for inviting me and having me in your meeting today. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here with you. Uplifting business opportunities during the pandemic. I think that's a very inspiring look ahead, and it's a very inspiring title for this event today, and therefore I'm very happy to address you here. As we say, never waste a crisis, yet times of crisis are turbulent times. So we will overcome the most imminent consequences of COVID perhaps in the next half year or so. And we have a chance to come out of the woods as far as economy and financial system is concerned faster than after the financial crisis 2008, 2009. That might be. Yet the long-term and mid-term impacts of this crisis are groundbreaking. And some even say we are at a Copernican moment. In such turbulent and historic times, we need proven partners. We need proven partners like India and Germany because we are strategic partners. And India and Germany, we are proven partners in turbulent times. Today, for example, we also will see high-level talks about development cooperation between German ministries and Indian ministries. Germany is an excellent development partner for India, and over the last years we have been we've had input of more than €1 billion for different projects covering many fields, also fields of economic cooperation and development. Proven partner in turbulent times, this holds true not only for the political level, but also for our strong economic ties. And you, the companies, the representatives of the companies, you are the most valuable and proven partners of this fabric of cooperation between India and Germany. So let me just take the opportunity to focus on some aspects that, in my view, at current times seem to be of high importance. My first remark refers to the more general economic and political background. German cabinet recently has approved political guidelines for the Indo-Pacific. We want to focus more on this region, on the Indo-Pacific region, and of course, India is an outstanding, unique partner there. We are at the same time confronted with a rising China that, as you all know, becomes increasingly challenging. China pursues its interests not only in its neighborhood, but also in Germany and Europe, and it pursues its interest with growing assertiveness. If we want to deal with China successfully, we are very well advised to look at the entire Indo-Pacific, meaning more focus of German policy on Indo-Pacific means more diversification and even closer cooperation with India. On the other hand, it does not mean, however, to exclude China and build new walls or start a process of complete wide-ranging decoupling. Decoupling is not in Germany's interest. Rather, we seek a realignment of trade and investment policies. We want to turn our supply chains more robust and reliable, more diversification. And if I'm not mistaken, German and Indian companies, you are as well at the same page. So let's discuss how we can manage to make supply chains more resilient, more diversified, how to develop more technological sovereignty, yet without provoking new unnecessary trade barriers and avoid an economic or digital divide, which will be not to the benefit of nobody. I think none of the companies present here today would like to have to produce or to offer their products for divided and separated markets with fragmented standards. That's not in the economic interest. Such a situation only raises costs and induces more cumbersome administrative burdens. And in this context of trade and economic exchange, we have to discuss also which direction we would like to go when it comes to free trade agreements, to the idea of free trade. We have seen the recent adoption of the RCEP agreement. it got high attention in Germany, in Europe, and in India, I think, as well. And we will see with great interest what kind of approach the new US administration will take towards free trade. It was with great relief, we have to confess, that we noticed that the president-elect supports the idea of international cooperation and looks favorably towards multilateral approach that will be to the benefit of all of us. So it might be possible in the field of free trade that the next US administration will reconsider rejoining the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement, the TPP. What is the outlook for the European Union and India free trade agreement? So that's a long-standing topic. As you know, the EU policy is set to achieve an ambitious free trade agreement, like we did, for example, with Vietnam or Singapore. The Indian side, as far as we perceive it, has a slightly different concept. They would like to start better with an early harvest agreement and to set up an ambitious roadmap for the future. Unfortunately, today, at the moment, I cannot offer you today any kind of new information or groundbreaking perspective. Indian minister, that's what I can tell you, Indian Minister of Commerce, Mr. Goyal, and the new European Commissioner, who is at the same time Vice President of the European Commission, they intend to hold high-level talks on this topic as soon as possible and hopefully this year. So today, let me just ask you, what are your priorities as far as free trade and economic exchange is concerned? I suppose market access, less non-tariff barriers, and a reliable level playing field are key elements for doing good business. So I would like to invite you to speak up and to transmit your specific expectations for further trade negotiations between India and the European Union. This is most welcome. My second remark refers to the current process of digital transformation and the so-called New Green Deal. The pandemic has increased our determination to transform our economies and our societies. That's why we are talking about this Copernican moment. Measures against climate change become more pressing every day. The European Union, under the German presidency, what we hold till the end of this year, will establish an unprecedented recovery fund to come out even stronger after the pandemic and after the crisis we now are living. So final negotiations for this recovery fund are underway. But what's very important to notice is that this recovery plan is not just a well-funded stimulus plan. It is for part of it, but it is much more than that. It is a transformation strategy, and it has two pillars, the Green Deal and the digital agenda. So let's talk a little bit about the Green Deal and the idea behind it. Almost 40% of this recovery fund will be dedicated to the new Green Deal in Europe, and it has a lot of consequences also for European partners. And the European Union will adjust its goal for reducing greenhouse gases till 2030 at least by minus 55%. That's our idea. Of course, there are many details to be discussed, but it's a clear direction where we are heading. We want to put more emphasis, we want to put more financial means in this idea of Green Deal. Therefore, for us, it was with great pleasure that we noticed that Prime Minister Modi yesterday was confirming that India intends expanding production of renewable energy. And Prime Minister Modi also invited global investors to join, assuring pro-business policies. That's a good news. So coming back to the title of your today's event, these are uplifting business opportunities in Europe, in the exchange between Europe and India, and in India itself. So the second pillar is the digital agenda. So some words on this second pillar of the European transformation strategy. Germany and the European member states, we are convinced we have to go our way of digital transformation. This means to develop our own digital capabilities, like a cloud that could help companies to make available their data for better business. And we are convinced that we need a digital model based on openness, trust, as well as data security. This new European way of digital transformation, abiding by our transparent and democratic rules, is open for cooperation, and it's not prone to establish a digital divide. We want to show we are ready to shape this transformation process worldwide and that we are a global player, together with you, the companies in Germany and in India. Because one key element, for example, of digital transformation constitutes the topic of Industry 4.0, and you are dealing with this topic later on. This is a driving force for smart industry development, and it represents the idea of manufacturing, engineering, and connectivity. That is the core business also the Engineering Federation stands for, and several other German and Indian companies stand for. And Industry 4.0, that doesn't only mean plugging in industrial production to an internet connection or attaching 4 wheels to a computer, as our automotive producers might say. It is far more like that. We would like to make a difference when it comes to the combination of digital solutions and industrial productions. And German and Indian companies have been very active in this and put a lot of effort in Industry 4.0. You are already collaborating extensively with Indian customers and suppliers on a wide range of Industry 4.0 or smart manufacturing applications, remote control, improving software, hardware processes for automation, maintenance, and machine learning. In recent studies on Indian economic structures, I think I learned that Indian economy might need more automation and more productivity. And if I understand Atmanirbhar Bharat, so the self-reliant policy approach correctly, India wants to strengthen its own economy to become a better partner in the world. Atmanirbhar Bharat is not self-centered or exclusively inward-looking. Or as Prime Minister Modi said, India will become a global manufacturing hub on its own strength. To realize these ideas, smart technology for digital transformation and automation is most needed. It's most needed technology, but it's also needed highly skilled workers. They are also required. And I think German-Indian cooperation may offer both. We can make a difference in smart technology, in engineering, and in training on the job, represented very prominently by the so-called duale Berufsausbildung, vocational training. That is what our German companies and in cooperation with Indian companies stand for, not only for high quality, for modern automation, for modern technology, but also for training on the job, for vocational training. So these were my remarks on a broader background of our economic and political cooperation and on the most important points we are confronted with as far as technological, economic, and transformation of our societies is concerned as far as I see it. So I thank you very much for your attention. I thank you very much for being here with you. And as it is the start of my job, my posting here, we still will have a lot of opportunities to come together and to exchange. And I hope in the next year we will also have the chance of getting to know each other on a personal way. Thank you very much.
Right. Thank you. Thank you for the insightful address, Dr. Graber. I think you have really set the tone for our discussion. You've really set the tone for the webinar also. And especially, I think the topics you've touched upon, you spoke about the free trade agreement, which is so, I think, relevant for development of Indo-European, Indo-German trade also. Also, you touched upon digital transformation. You spoke about the new Green Deal and the Green Deal in Europe and digital transformation, Dr. Graber. In fact, our next two presentations are touching on the topic of Industry 4.0, machine safety, and these are very relevant topics in today's scenario and when we talk about the industrial progress also. So I'm sure the German companies in India as well as the VDMA members in Germany are looking forward to strengthening the Indo-German trade in the engineering sector. And with the support and guidance from the embassy, I'm sure the next period again we would see a good boost to the Indo-German trade in the engineering sector. So thank you, Dr. Graber, for your address, and I think you've really set the tone for our presentation also, the forthcoming presentation, and wish you a very good tenure here in India, Dr. Graber. And as you mentioned, I'm sure may not be this year, but next year we would have the opportunity to meet also personally in a physical form rather than virtually. Thank you. Friends, with that, we would start with the presentation now, and you would have the opportunity also of putting questions to our speakers. So please use the question chat box, which you can see on your panel on the right-hand side, to address your questions to the speakers. We will take all the questions in the end. So with that, friends, now it's a proud privilege for me to welcome Mr. Sagar Bhosle, Managing Director of Schmerzal India, for his presentation on a very relevant topic, a very relevant and important topic, future of machine safety. And friends, I think it's a very interesting presentation, what we will now experience from Sagar, also touching upon the aspect of Industry 4.0, as Dr. Graber mentioned. So over to you, Sagar, and we look forward to your presentation.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Graber, and thank you, Mr. Nath, for setting the tone. And while in the current scenario, it is very difficult to predict the future, but in terms of machinery safety, we definitely have some trends which we are going to share with you. So just to give you a small introduction, this year has been a critical year, no one would forget. But at the same time, in Schmerzal, we are very happy that we remember this year as we have completed about 75 years of foundation of a company. But throughout the 75 years, as on date today, if you see, we are having more than 41,000 customers with 16,000 products. We have 7 manufacturing sites globally, but all of them work towards one goal. We try to turn workplaces into safer places. Coming to India, we have our headquarters in Pune, where we have our manufacturing plant. And to just share with you quickly the journey of Schmerzal India, we started in 2007 as a trading organization, but very soon we realized that we need to move into manufacturing to cater to this big market. So we had our manufacturing plant in 2013. The next step was to have the free trade warehouse zone and a small step towards the export-oriented unit. So we have a free trade warehouse zone in Mumbai and an export-oriented zone in the plant. Subsequently, we started the Global IT Center here in India, which caters to the requirements of the entire Schmerzal group. Subsequent to the IT Center, we also had the Global Engineering Center, which we started last year. And this year, even during the pandemic, we had the expansion of our export-oriented unit in the plant. Now, coming to the topic of machine safety, what we are going to delve into is the future of machine safety. But in the past 14 years, how have we progressed? So if we compare ourselves about 13 to 15 years back in India, we see that earlier when we started, safety was not considered as necessary. But we see a big change. When we go to our customers, they find it very useful today. The second is the lack of knowledge. There was a deep lack of knowledge regarding the safety systems. But today, the knowledge is easily available. Looking at the products, people are able to identify whether the product is a safety product or a non-safety product, because both the products actually look very, very identical. Earlier, there was a misconception that the safety would reduce the productivity, but people have admitted and started using safety because it actually aids the productivity. And earlier, safety was provided if only the end customer demands it, if he asks for it. But today it is by default. So we see we have made quite good steps in terms of safety where we were about few years, a decade back. But how do we see it from future? So we today consider it useful, but in future, safety would be mandatory. And there is a strong reason for this. If you know that the international standards, the IEC and the ISO norms, these have been adopted by the Bureau of Indian Standards. So these 32 ISO standards will soon be published and released by the Bureau of Indian Standards for the Indian market. So more sooner than later, we would have a strong implementation of these norms in India, which was missing earlier. The one of the states today was the availability of knowledge, but in future we are sure many customers will have their own certified in-house safety consultants. Right now the customers have to come to the manufacturers to have these consultants, but in future they would have them in-house. The productivity will take the next leap because the sensors which are used will not only provide the safety, but they will also provide a lot of data for taking the systems towards Industry 4.2. Just to share an example, where you see a typical factory layout with the different sensors and the doors, sitting at a remote location, you can easily see whether a door has been open. You can not only see whether the door is open, but you can count the number of times the door has been open, and you can map it with the regular standard number of openings. Now, these type of openings would really give you a very good insight as to why this door is being frequently opened. Is there some issue with the process, or is the person who's handling it new, or there could be various reasons. But with this data analysis, it is easy to predict the few faults of the future. And of course, if there is a fault, you can see it on your remote desktop. So the sensors make a sea change in the future. And not only this, the biggest issue today we have in India is in terms of distance. So whenever there is any troubleshooting to be done, how this would happen in future? Some of these have already started with Schmersal, with a product, with an application called an expert eye. So any customer in any location would just have to have a link from us for the expert eye solution. He can use it and he can show our expert who's sitting back in factory what is the exact location of the problem. Our expert sitting at the factory can pinpoint the exact location of the fault, which can be easily seen by the person at the site. And this drastically helps both the customers and the manufacturers. The customers have an advantage that they don't have to wait for the service person from any manufacturer to reach, maybe a couple of days. And the companies like us have an advantage because one person can complete, say, 4 jobs in a day rather than 1 job in 2 days. This aids a lot of savings in terms of time, energy, and money. The other change which we see is that earlier it was used by default, but now people are using safety right at the inception. So typically today, the machine safety is done on the machines which are already installed. But right now, we have seen already a trend where people are involving the safety consultants right at the design stage, so that all the safety measures can be incorporated right at the start to make it the most effective. The other change which is very evident, which we see in our daily lives, the customization of any product has become very, very easy and demanded. This is demanded by everyone. So how does it reflect in safety? Here, most of the manufacturers who manufacture the machines, different type of machines, would ideally like to have only one type of controller, for example, instead of using different controllers for different types of safety functions. So this is a trend which we manufacturers are moving towards. We have controllers which are economical, where there is no programming required. You can easily select the programming from the drop-down applications. You can see a small toggle switch which can help you to select the program, and you have to just use the controller and fit it into the machine and start using it. It would be customized for your own machines. The technology also has one more leap from the traditional electromechanical, where the Indian industry is comfortable. It has moved to non-contact. From non-contact, they have moved to RFID. Now there is a lot of applications of Bluetooth and the safety bus for the 4.0. So we always talk about industry 4.0, but then these applications in the industry have already entered our lives in the factories and have made our life much more easier. Just to give you an example, the light barriers, the light curtains, which are used by all the manufacturers in India, the most difficulty is to align this, to keep it aligned in spite of vibrations, and to have a proper usage of this product. This has been enabled by using a Bluetooth technology and an app, a mobile app, which helps to make the alignments and the diagnosis very easy. Mr. Manohar, can you just play the video? Of how the technology moves in future, and yeah, and now we come to the next point of the diagnostics. The machine diagnostics are very easy to handle. So earlier, yeah, so we have the easy diagnostics which people are used to. Now the same technology of diagnostics is available or will be available from the safety products also. The safety products will be able to tell us what is the remaining lifetime. Normally the products have lives in millions of operations. So the question normally comes up, why do we monitor this? But a typical product which is not good or which is approaching its failure very fast, you would see, for example, the number of years every year is reduced after 3 days. So then you know for sure there is some issue with the product, and you can take preventive measures to address it. At the same time, not only it indicates the remaining life, but it assists the user to order this code. It gets a pre-information, as well as it automatically provides the instruction manuals for the user ready-made. so that he can have the manuals ready to install it. The other trend which we see is one and all. People want all the functions with one device. And there we come up with many solutions. The market is already having a lot of solutions, not only from Schmersal, but the entire safety industry, where you have products where the safety relay, for example, this is just an example where you have to use a relay for different applications. But now you can have one relay for all the applications, because it's possible to have a rotary knob to set the function on the relay, as well as it is possible to have the time delays also set, which are adjustable. No need to buy separate relays with separate time delays. The other typical example is the interlocks. This is just an example to show that now every user struggles with the decision whether to use, for example, a power to lock or a power to unlock design, which is typically based on the risk assessment. And these can cause errors. So in future, the technology helps us. The technology makes it sure that the systems are bistable and you can program the version. It is not necessary to design at the start whether it is a power to lock or a power to unlock version. This reduces a lot of chances of errors and the inventory at the customer. The new trend which is sure to come is the safety has to be specific. It has to be, the normal sensors could not be used, but the normal sensors have to be hygienically safe when they use, or they have to be certified by ATEX if they are used in an explosive zone. So all this is a trend where we all are moving towards. And now if you want to have control devices specifically for hygiene, it is available with all the necessary certifications. So a specific sector will have a specific demand which the manufacturers would have to fulfill. Coming to the basic automation topology, you know, this is the typical automation topology today, where we have the field sensors, then we have the control and the process management. But how would this evolve in future? Of course, the field level sensors will remain, but what you see is more and more control and the intelligence is moving right now into the sensors. At the same time, it would have a high connectivity and a bandwidth to communicate with the local automation cloud and the public cloud. So here you see, where has the control level gone? The control level basically has moved some part into the fields and some part into the cloud. This is how the systems will evolve in future. And in future, everyone uses web. And even today, there are a lot of applications on the web which are free to use. Products like Systema, which are from BGI, these are free to use softwares where people can use this, download it and start using this to know the risk levels of their existing machines. Even after the machine upgradation has been done, they can use this software to check where they have reached. So it is fully free of cost available on the web, and you will have more and more applications like the configurators for different automation system would also be available free of cost on the web. These configurators help you to design your system properly, to know the drops of voltages, to know the selection of products, and this makes your life easy in implementation and reduce the chances of errors during the final installations. The future business model, we move from the fixed subscriptions to a general yearly subscription type of models. And we anticipate from the CapEx, we will always move towards the OpEx model. Here also, we will see safety as a service in future, we are sure. It's not too far away. And also the customers. Typically, we have all the customers today, but in the future, we would have new sets of customers. Customers who are more of the software dominated companies who take up complete jobs, because everything is based on the industry 4.0 and the communications in future. So this is in a nutshell what we try to provide you in terms of machine safety. And I can say machine safety in future will always be there. The only thing, it would never be visible, You will never see it on the machines or the robots or any communication which you have. But we always say the safety will be more smart in future, 4.0 plus. It will always be there. And the most interesting part, it won't be visible. So I just close my presentation with these thoughts. I will just show you a small video to demonstrate how the safety would be there, but interestingly never visible. Thank you. Manohar, can you play the video, please?
Bum 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 bum. Mr. Sandman, bring me a dream. Bum 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 bum, begging the cutest that I've ever seen. Bum 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 bum, you'll have nobody to call my own. Bum bum bum, please turn on your magic beam. Mr. Sandman, bring me a dream. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Mr. Sandman, someone to hold. Would be so peachy before it grew old. So please turn on your magic beam. Mr. Sandman, bring me a dream.
So thank you, Sagar, for the very interesting presentation. And certainly machine safety is a very important topic. And it was very interesting. You also mentioned as safety as a service for the future. So I think that's really an interesting concept. In fact, it sets, I think it's very nice with this presentation now. It is when we move on to the next presentation, from Krishan, which is also on Industry 4.0. So friends, proud privilege for me to now invite Mr. Krishan Kohli, Managing Director of Continental Automotive Brake Systems India Private Limited, for his presentation on Industry 4.0. In fact, Krishan, I think this presentation would have a lot of significance for our audience, especially from the manufacturing sector. And we look forward to your presentation now, Krishan, and welcome also to this web seminar.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Nath. So good morning, everyone, and I hope you can hear me okay.
You're audible. You're well audible.
Okay. So again, once again, thank you, VDMA, Dr. Gerber, Mr. Nath, for this opportunity. And it's a pleasure to be part of this team today, representing Continental, and to present this important key topic on Industry 4.0. So with that, we can move to the next slide, where I would need help on slide moving, Manohar.
It's already done, Krishan. We can view the slide. Yeah.
Okay. Looks like there is a small lag, but I'll manage that. So here we are actually showing what is the Continental India footprint, both on manufacturing technology as well as R&D. So Continental is a tier 1 supplier into the automotive industry worldwide and also in the Indian market. And we have 9 plants, 15 locations across the country, present in all important auto hubs. Currently, we are upwards of 9,000 employees, and there is almost like a 260 million euro kind of investment which has already gone into the India footprint that we have today. And then there are upcoming investments which are again in a higher double-digit million euros. So with that, we go to the next slide, which basically talks of what are the plant locations and the locations that Continental has across the country. As mentioned already, we are present in all the auto hubs across the country. So with that, we'll move to the next slide. And here, actually, Industry 4.0, very important topic, pertinent in today's situation. So traditional factories and plants, as we have seen, mostly the monitoring, controls, and machineries, they heavily relied on manual interventions for the final decision process. However, the smart factories, they work differently, more independent, taking holistic approach on production and manufacturing. Smart factories automate the whole manufacturing value chain across the manufacturing, including supply chain and quality systems. And machines which are used in the smart factories for manufacturing, they are capable of not just the AI compatibility, but they also can be developed and modified as per the needs of the latest changes in the trends in the manufacturing. So usage of big data applications, collaborative robots, automated transport robots, that has been increasing in the companies as the world and the companies are moving to Industry 4.0. I'm sorry, Manohar, I will ask for slide. Yeah, thank you. I will keep asking when we have to move. So here, I think the Industry 4.0 practices and technologies in the manufacturing plants as that is setting in. So there is implementation of Manohar, I would request once we have to change the slides, can we go back to the previous slide, please? And I'll keep asking for slide movement. So implementation of the, one slide back, please. Yeah, thank you. So implementation of augmented reality for remote assistance and problem solving. We also see artificial intelligence for facial detection on quality inspection, and then the AGVs for efficient material movement on the shop floor. There are cobots that really take up repetitive tasks that is becoming more and more prevalent. And the transition of these smart factories will gradually limit the human role in monitoring and repetitive tasks primarily. And it is also possible that the smart factories, they will take some corrective measures without much human intervention through predictive analytics, also through machine learning, which improves the efficiency and quality of the production. So in simpler terms, Industry 4.0, it is going to reinvent the industrial processes to boost efficiency by using the solution of Industry 4.0 that is inspiring the industry to be more competitive and innovative, and also contributing into the whole value chain. So Manohar, then we'll go to the next slide. So smart factories for us, it is like setting up from a traditional automation to, we'll move to the next slide, like that smart automated services, be it the products that we service in the markets or manufacturing and in-house processes. We have implemented smart factory initiatives across the world, including India. In India, we have already implemented the augmented reality for remote assistance and problem solving. We have the AGVs for material movement on the shop floor. We are using artificial intelligence for the facial detection for quality inspection. We have deployed cobots, which we'll talk in a bit, to undertake repetitive tasks. Optical automated inspection and visual inspection also for helping us supplying better quality products into the market. We are working on newer concepts like e-Karman, e-Jidoka, and also low automation concepts like Chaco, which has been adopted to improve our production line efficiencies. So this slide we see level 0 to level 3, and Continental we are already at much above level 2 and in the level 3 zone. So with that, we go to the next slide, please. So here we are talking of the business excellence model. So this slide basically talks of all the crucial factors that impact the implementation process as we go on our journey for Industry 4.0. The entire industry is gradually moving towards smart factories. So while the benefits are plenty, but this change also requires a lot of effort and capital investment. So there is no one size which fits all. And then we have the scale, the pace, and the level of automation, which will be different across industries and also organizations. So we must keep in mind about the reskilling and the training of workforce, which is also a very important aspect. So these are operational challenges which the industry faces in varying degrees. Next slide, please. So in Continental, I think the smart factory initiatives that we have, there is a focus on improvement of our processes primarily. So the automotive supply chain, that is considered as one of the most robust across industries. It is fast evolving, lean and efficient model that sees continuous improvement over decades, covering various stakeholders. So though the supply chain of the automotive industry is remarkably different from other sectors, but there are strategies and solutions which other industries also can leverage from. Talking of automation, the automotive industry is much ahead on automation as well as the reaping the heavy benefits due to this initiative. Agility is another piece where supply chain, how fast we respond to the changing market needs and customer demands, and this is basically important again aspect that we address within Continental. Also we talk of a simplest use of wearable devices where safety awareness, wristbands, connected clothing, headbands that can give employees warnings when we are approaching any dangerous equipment or location. So the transformation towards smart factories that is helping Continental to produce optimized output in terms of quality as well as cost. Continental employs cobots in various power plants across the globe, and then we have 1,600 cobots which are working in Continental manufacturing locations, including India as well. Industry 4.0 practices, that is the only way forward for manufacturers like us to compete in the global manufacturing industry and the changing market needs. Furthermore, the connectivity and the AI and the machine learning that is helping making Continental supply chain smarter. Automatic replenishment, big data analytics, transport order management systems, GPS-enabled vehicle outbound logistics, inbound logistics. So these are some of the examples where Continental is using the advanced technologies on our supply chain. Smart factories, we can handle agile nature of operational tasks, which again results in a lot of flexibility and operational efficiencies. Another aspect of implementing smart factories is to promote sustainable practices. So with the help of digitalization, we have been able to implement various sustainability initiatives. Some of the simple examples, checklist digitalization in the utility areas, we have been using in our Bangalore plant, reducing paper waste tremendously. We move to the next slide, please. So on the shop floor management, so there are wearable devices, augmented reality, some of the examples that we have. Manohar, next slide. Sorry, looks like there is a time lag on moving the slides. My apologies. No, I'm sorry. It's moved one further. Manohar, one back, please. So manufacturing in all scales, it's increasing investment on wearable devices with various sensors that can be used in the workforce. One of the simplest uses of wearable devices I was mentioning on the safety awareness. So wristbands, connected clothing, headbands that help with safety of employees when approaching with potentially dangerous equipment or locations. There's another use that we are employing on the job training. So with the augmented reality, virtual reality, these devices can provide remote training from anywhere in the world. And we are using these devices in a couple of our manufacturing plants in India, and it is really helping us with solving the topics on the ground remotely from experts across the world. So these are some of the examples that we had on the shop floor use. So with that, we go to the next slide, please. And this slide, we will also talk of some of the advanced robots applications that Continental again is using on our manufacturing plant locations. So there are various kind of robots that are put in here, but I will speak more on the cobots, which is basically nothing but a collaborative robot. And these are complex machines which conduct complicated mechanical operations, and they are designed to work alongside with humans. So there is an interface with humans, but then unlike traditional robots, which are autonomous in their operations, cobots are designed to share the workspace with humans. And these are generally employed to perform tasks which are repetitive, burdening, maybe hazardous sometimes, unergonomic, and such as assembly, carrying heavy equipments, etc., quality inspection as well. So Continental, we mentioned, we have 1,600 cobots which are globally deployed in our manufacturing locations. To giving some relevant cases, so as manufacturing is slowly resuming operations in India and across the world, especially the post-COVID pandemic, so this will be a primary challenge, how you get the skilled workforce across the world. And we already seen the industry problem coming, and that is where the robots as well as cobots can really be a great help. With that, we can go to the next slide. So here we talk of various other examples in the supply chain management with RFID, GPS, big data management, and 3D printing. So connected factories today are opening doors for more efficient and data-driven processes. So on connectivity, both AI and machine learning, they have been helping Continental tremendously in increasing our operations efficiency. So automatic replenishment and big data analytics, also transport order management. So these are some of the examples that I already mentioned. We are also using electronic data interchange as well as the ASN systems to manage our supply chains efficiently. Now, big data, it can definitely help identify bottlenecks and gaps, and that is what we earlier were maybe going blind, and today with big data analytics, that's a great help. On 3D printing, again, there is a use that we do, especially on the plastic parts within the framework of junior company, and we use 3D printing in our Bangalore location as well today, and that really helps again managing our business operations much better. With that, we go to the next slide, please. So talking of some of the results, so while we are transitioning, the whole world is transitioning into smart factories, which means using advanced technologies and reinventing the industry processes to boost efficiency, productivity, as well as optimizing the cost, but very importantly, providing higher value services into the customers. And all this requires definitely a lot of planning, and specific to industry, it could be changing a little bit, but automation will have, that will be the norm going forward across various industries, across various organizations. And this is something that is the future go-to. So evolution of our industry 4.0 that has been inspiring the whole industry to be more competitive as well as innovative. So here we are showing some examples how Continental is using the industry 4.0 practices as well as initiatives, which is helping us manage topics both with our external stakeholders as well as internal stakeholders. So with that, I move to my last slide. Manohar, my last slide. So here, I think we will just recap what are the key takeaways in the manufacturing capacity and capability expansion at Continental that we experience. So whatever is the level of automation we opt for, data can be leveraged. That is one thing that we learned. Industry 4.0 that benefits the whole value chain. Across the value chain, there are benefits that we see. Connectivity can optimize information flow quickly and real time. Leveraging data and technology for faster and cheaper project execution, that's another piece that we experience. For the new plants, design, protect equipment to collect the data and help drive efficiencies. And last but not the least, manufacturing execution system efficiency that again helps the overall business. So that was my last slide. With that, I think Manohar, if you can go to the next slide where we have a short video which helps us really showcase some glimpses of Continental Automation 4.0 that we have deployed, and this example comes from our Bangalore plant. So Manohar, if you could help me put that video on.
For over 35 years, the Continental automotive plants have been adapting to an ever-changing world. The Continental automotive plants are innovating, transforming to ensure their long-term viability and develop new business opportunities. We collaborate across the CEP organization, business units and services. We are focusing on Industry 4.0, the smart factory, and the factory of the future to improve efficiency in our factories. The future factory will be flexible, connected, and robotized. They will ensure 100% traceability, provide automatic analysis, measure trends, and finally give our employees recommendations for actions before output losses occur. In this way, we can focus on what is important, the availability of our machines. The most important factor is our employees. It is with them that we will be shaping the transformation. Each individual is being thoroughly prepared for this transformation and receives the support needed in the form of personalized training and a confident and reliable management culture. We imagine, we invent, we create, we live our future as an innovative company.
That was all we had from Continental on the Industry 4.0, and thank you once again for patient hearing. Over to you, Mr. Nath.
Yeah, thank you, Krishan. I think a very interesting presentation, and you spoke about smart factory concept at Continental, and we could really see that also in the video. And friends, actually, as per Niti Aayog, the application of Industry 4.0 and digital transformation can add to our GDP growth by almost 1.4%. So I think for the manufacturing industry, it is very important to look at automation and applications of Industry 4.0. So thank you, Krishan, for this excellent presentation. Friends, I would now like to invite Mr. Vaibhav Mittal, Business Head Mahindra World City, for his presentation on manufacturing in India, role of integrated industrial ecosystem. Vaibhav, over to you for the presentation now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nath. Good morning to everyone, and it's a real pleasure to be here speaking at the VDMA webinar. I think the topic couldn't have been better after hearing all the webinars around post-COVID situation, how the industry is going to rebound, and post-pandemic situations and all that. I think this is a very, very relevant topic, and it's a very, very forward-looking topic. So what I am going to do over the next few minutes is basically I'm going to talk about one of the very core behind all the success which all the companies like Continental and others actually enjoy because of the infrastructure which is being provided either by the state governments or by the private industrial park players like us. So the presentation which is going to largely cover around the investment scene which is going on in India right now, and how government is actually trying to rebound the entire investment scenario as far as India is concerned, and how they are actually inviting global companies to come and set up their operations in India. We are a very small part of that journey. We work with many state governments as well as work with all the authorities and agencies of the federal government. But having said that, we have a very large impact with respect to the kind of companies which we have and the kind of investments which our projects have been able to put across. Manoharji, next slide, please. What will next one? So what we are going to do is, we'll just step back for 1 second and look at the pre-COVID situation, how it looked like for India. Next slide. India was lacking as far as the world or global manufacturing output is concerned. Our account was only 1.8%. We were very ambitious in 2014, 2015 when we started the whole objective of Make in India to increase the manufacturing sector's GDP to 25, manufacturing sector's share to GDP at 25% and create around 100 million jobs. However, due to some structural issues, we could not achieve that as well. We were not, on path to be a absolutely success in terms of our Make in India journey. COVID-19 this year actually cast a shadow over this entire ambitious plan. And some of the other reasons were that we didn't have the infrastructure. So infrastructure was very, very important aspect whenever somebody was looking at India. And I'm sure in all our discussions with the global players, we would always hear about two words. One was, oh, there are supply chain issues, or India's infrastructure is still not there. So I think infrastructure played an extremely big role in terms of not letting Make in India be that success as it was planned to be. The other one was around some of the other issues around the EODB tax rates and some of the other uncertainty caused by some arbitrary government policies and labor laws. I think that these are some of the things which actually were the situation before the COVID hit us, and COVID gave us the time to the government as well as to all the players that what can we do better so that India 2.0, the new avatar, is much better and is much more strengthened. Next slide. So what we did was we just quickly analyzed the post-COVID situation, how it is emerging globally. Next slide. So if you look at the impact on global supply chains, I think the global supply chains are changing. There is a definite sentiment to reduce dependence on China. Sometimes it is very vocal, sometimes it is not so vocal. But inside the boardrooms of global companies, I think the sentiment is absolutely there in terms of reducing dependence on China for their global supplies. From a infrastructure point of view and from the size of the whole opportunity point of view, in the short and medium term, there can be some quick movement of companies to happen in some neighboring countries which are smaller. However, from a long-term success point of view and from a very strong, emerging middle class within India and the entire capacities which the country offers, I think India is a very strong mid to long term story for these companies, and that's what a lot of global companies are now looking at. The other thing which happened is that earlier Singapore and Hong Kong were supposed to be the entry ports for global movement of goods, but I think now companies are looking at redrawing these global shipping routes and trying to see how we can, look at some of the other ports as well for our global supply chains. I'm sure we would have all read that Japan recently announced setting up a $2.2 billion fund to help their manufacturers to shift production out of China. Taiwan is doing it quietly. A lot of Taiwanese companies are moving out of China, and they're looking at the entire set of Southeast Asian countries other than China and India in terms of their newer destinations. And of course, U.S. government also put in some kind of restriction on the U.S. companies in moving manufacturing to China. So this is something which has actually happened during the last 7-8 months in terms of the global supply chains and the impact of COVID on these global supply chains. Next slide, please. So where do we stand? Where does India stand in this entire picture? Next. So what we are going to do is over the next few slides, we're going to talk about some of the advantages which we provide. And, we try to cover it at Mahindra's because I think more than our story, it has to be the India story, which needs to be convincing story. Only then the Mahindra World Cities story is going to be very, very convincing. And from that point of view, what we definitely know is there are certain numbers which are getting better for India. I think we are reaching our potential, and we are actually moving towards the right path as far as growth is concerned. Private sector participation in strategic sectors has been opened up now. The defense manufacturing is one such sector where there was always an issue around foreign collaborators, that the 49% limit of foreign companies is very low because there are IPs which they don't want to transfer to India and want to have a controlling stake. I think government of India has increased it now and at 74%, and in fact in some of the places it is even up to 100%. Is a very, very welcome step. Apart from that, commercial mining, and I think if you would have read the newspapers recently, had a kind of a, I would say, a positive mixed response for the first coal mining auctions which happened in India. Apart from that, we are opening up new areas of reforms as well as industry, private players to access space sector. Now space, we know India is extremely strong, and is one of the strongest sectors where there can be a lot of collaboration. So I think that has opened up for the first time, and that also opens up opportunities for global companies to come and look at India as a low-cost space exploration power, and that is also going to give India a very, very strong competitive edge. And apart from that, the MSME turnover limits have been changed so that the whole definition changes. I think there's a whole lot of work which is going on, and this COVID situation actually gave the government a good time to think about in terms of doing a whole holistic, working around making in India and what are the other advantages which can be created within India for the global companies. Next one. One of the important pillars of this particular, Make in India story is also the Atmanirbhar Bharat. I think somebody from the German embassy did speak about it a little bit. So from that, point of view, what is happening is that Atmanirbhar Bharat is something which is an extremely important parameter for the government of India. And Atmanirbhar by definition means self-reliant. It does not mean that it is actually inward looking. It's very, very outward looking. So from that point of view, I think this is a very, very important step towards that. Just go back, Manoharji, sorry, Atmanirbhar Bharat, we just missed it. Go back. Yeah. One of the important aspects, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. One of the important aspects over here is the whole production linked incentive scheme. What we have covered here is more from an electronic sector, because the electronic sector is one of the most important sectors where India is wanting to become a global leader. So that was the first sector where Government of India started the PLI scheme. But recently, around 10 days back, the cabinet has approved the PLI scheme for 10 more sectors. And I think some of the sectors are very, very relevant with respect to the German investments in India as well. For example, the whole automotive and auto component, PLI incentive, the renewable energy incentive. So these are some of the things which Government of India has done in terms of bringing in incentives at par with the investments and the capacities which India can actually harness from these investments. Next one. Next slide, please. Yeah, next. So from an opportunities point of view, I think there is some lag. Next slide, Manoj. Yeah, this is a very busy slide. I'll just quickly tell you 4 things which are very, very important out of this slide. One is that infrastructure is an extremely important aspect of the entire economic reforms process. There has always been a concern amongst the global companies that there is a scarcity of high quality, good quality land in India. So what Government of India is doing is they are developing a complete land pool database where they are going to open up, that land pool database to the global companies. A list of more than 3,000 industrial parks, which also incidentally has all our 4 parks also listed, is already ready with the government. Apart from that, government is proactively talking to around 1,000 large foreign companies to come and invest in India. These companies are, companies which have investments either in China or in other ASEAN countries. So they are actually looking at how we can attract them to India. Apart from that, states are working very, very strongly and in concurrence with the central government in terms of providing a right conducive environment for these companies, global companies, to come and set up their operations. Government of India has also selected 10 sectors on which they will concentrate. I think that's a very, very good step because that gives the whole energy focus for these sectors. And I think Germany has a very strong role, and the whole of Europe has a very strong role to play in these 10 sectors, which are clearly handpicked by the Government of India in terms of focusing towards getting the investments. Next slide. This is just a comparative destination, that how India is competitive in terms of where we stand, both in terms of corporate tax rates and some of the other competitive data points when it comes to some of the neighboring countries where we see the investments are moving when they are looking at moving out of China. Next one. I'll come to the main topic and I'll spend just 5 more minutes on this particular topic. What is the importance of integrated ecosystem which we are talking about? And and at the back of this integrated system is what most of the global companies come into India, come into a location and set up their operations. And I think we are the pioneers as far as this integrated ecosystem is concerned. For creation of this integrated ecosystem is concerned in India. Next slide. So what we have actually started to do is, we focus from an integrated ecosystem point of view when we develop our parks, and we're going to talk about that a little later. We focus on 3 very specific aspects of doing the ecosystem based on livelihood, living, and life. Now, this
Weber, we can't hear you. Could you? Friends, we are unable to, I think Weber is in Chennai And I don't know, maybe due to the recent cyclone, there is some disturbance in the internet connection. Maybe we will just run his slide. Yeah. Vaibhav, are you there?
They only concentrate on their own, aspects, not on anything else. Just go back 1 minute. This is a very, very important slide. The second part which is there is basically the second part is the living aspect. So when we move from a livelihood to living is where we want people to stay within the industrial park, within the integrated ecosystem which we are creating, which enhances the entire living quotient as well as their life quotient on their lives. So that is something which we provide intrinsically through all the residential and commercial development which we do inside the park. And then the third part is the life aspect, which basically means that we want to create very lively cities where people thrive and the entire humanity thrives. We don't want ghost towns to be created where people come for their work and go back in the evening. So for that to happen, we do integrate the entire living question as well as the livelihood question together, so that there is a very resilient ecosystem which is created, and there's a fine balance between the livelihood, living, and life aspects of this particular development. Next slide. So from that point of view, one of the important aspects which was very clearly captured during this entire COVID scenario, and when the unlocking started, Mahindra World City Jaipur was the first project where 45 companies immediately restarted their operations. And one of the reasons for doing that, and it was very well covered in the Economic Times as well, one of the clear reasons for all these companies to get started so quickly was the fact that the whole infrastructure was integrated, the services were integrated, they were not dependent upon the external authorities and external things. And more than that, we were all together in terms of providing a complete fail-safe infrastructure to the companies over there and work with the local authorities to restart the operations. Next slide. What we do sustainable urbanization. All our projects are globally recognized as green projects. Mahindra World City Chennai was the first gold-rated green project in India. Mahindra World City Jaipur is the largest project in the world with respect to the C40 climate positive program of Clinton Climate Initiative. Origins are the projects which are smaller format industrial parks, where all our projects are already pre-certified as either platinum or gold. So we have the entire ecosystem which is developed based on the green developments, and we are leaders in terms of sustainable economic development as far as these projects are concerned. So when a European company or a global company looks at India, looks into our projects, while they are focusing on green developments, while they are focusing on absolute sustainable measures for their projects, when they are coming into Mahindra World City or Origins, they don't really have to worry about the external environment, because external environment is also complementing their entire green initiative. So we are already there as far as the entire global leadership on the sustainable development is concerned. Next slide. Just a quick, glance on one, specific ecosystem, the kind of ecosystem which is being provided. If you look at Mahindra World City Chennai, BMW is one of our very important, clients here with their mother plant and manufacturing, plant located inside Mahindra World City Chennai. And what it has enabled is why they were able to start the entire factory very, very fast again post-COVID was some of the key suppliers for BMW are also located within Mahindra World City. So Force Motors, Lear Corporation, Magna, all of them were located within Mahindra World City. So the entire process of integration of manufacturing happened within World City, and they were able to come back to full operations very, very fast. Moving on to Jaipur, if you look at it, another very large European company, JCB, has its mother plant there in Mahindra World City Jaipur. And apart from that, there are three large suppliers in Indo Autotech, SIAC, and Sandhar Motors, which are present in Jaipur within the Mahindra World City ecosystem. And when the restart happened, these three companies also automatically restarted. So OEMs depend upon vendors, and vendors depend upon OEMs. So if you are located in a similar integrated ecosystem, the interdependence become very, very cohesive, and it becomes extremely, extremely strong because you can actually collaborate in a much more efficient way. Next slide. These are some of the other advantages. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on these, but these are some of the advantages in a kind of infrastructure and ecosystem which we provide. Apart from clear land titles and plug-and-play infrastructure, I think the most important for any company is also about the operations, maintenance, and the entire running of the entire park. I think that is something where we are pioneers and we are the masters of doing that. We provide all the external support for the companies when it comes to within the industrial park, related services, the power, the water, everything is being provided at the doorstep. So that is something which provides a lot of good working environment for the companies, and that is one reason why they look at some of the integrated projects as large infrastructure projects for their manufacturing base. Next. Next slide, Manoji. Just last 2-3 slides very quickly. I will just spend upon what we are. I'm sure a lot of you must be wondering that what is Mahindra World City doing over here. Next one. We are part of Mahindra and Mahindra Group. Mahindra and Mahindra Group doesn't need any introduction. We have a large presence across the world. We are in more than 100 countries, including large presence in Europe. We have operations in Germany as well. Apart from that, many other countries. We are part of the real estate and infrastructure vertical of Mahindra Group. Our listed entity or the mother company is called Mahindra Lifespaces. It's listed on Mumbai Stock Exchange. And we are into 3 distinct business models as far as real estate and infrastructure business is concerned. One is Mahindra Lifespaces as a parent brand is into mid and premium housing, residential development and commercial development. So all the residential developments inside Mahindra World Cities are done by Mahindra Lifespaces. The second part is the integrated cities and industrial clusters business, which is basically having 2 brands. One is called Mahindra World City. The other one is called Origins by Mahindra World City. Mahindra World Cities are integrated cities, which are basically depending upon livelihood, living and life model. Origins are industrial clusters. These are small clusters which are actually just focused on providing high quality industrial working spaces for the manufacturing companies. And we are also into worker housing and affordable housing through our brand Happiness. So these are the 3 different business models where we operate as a real estate and infrastructure vertical of $21 billion Mahindra and Mahindra Group. Next slide. So we are, from a Make in India point of view, from an infrastructure point of view, we are located in 4 places right now for all the requirements of the manufacturing companies and the services companies which are looking at entering into India. We are located in north of India in Jaipur, which is Mahindra World City Jaipur. It is a 3,000-acre project. It is in joint venture with the local state government through Rajasthan Industrial Corporation. It's around 250 kilometers from Delhi. It's on the main national highway on the Delhi-Mumbai Industrial Corridor, and we have more than 90 companies which are located in Mahindra World City Jaipur. Mahindra World City Chennai is our second integrated city. This was also the first one which started our entire journey in India. It is spread over 1,500 acres. We have a number of German companies located in Mahindra World City Chennai. Apart from that, we have companies from 16 other countries which are located in Mahindra World City Chennai. A total of around 50,000 people are today working there, and we have 65 plus companies which are operating out of Mahindra World City Chennai, including BMW, BASF, B. Braun, to name some of the large German companies which are located here. We have a second industrial park, which is Origins here in Chennai, which is called Origins by Mahindra World City. It is in joint venture with Sumitomo Corporation of Japan. We currently have 3 Japanese companies which are operating. It's a new park. We inaugurated the park last year, and we are now currently inviting companies from around the world to come and take their space over here in Origins, Chennai. And our fourth and the latest park is coming out of Ahmedabad. Ahmedabad is in the western side on the Delhi-Mumbai Industrial Corridor. This is in joint venture with International Finance Corporation World Bank. It is a 340-acre park, a small industrial cluster, and we are currently focusing on the entire infrastructure development over there and inviting anchor companies. So if you are looking at Ahmedabad as one of your locations, probably Origins by Mahindra World City can be your destination of choice when you're looking at Ahmedabad. So these are some of the spread from an industrial point of view is concerned. We are the only players in India who are basically having 4 projects running it parallelly. For us, this is the business we are in, and we are the thought leaders as far as integrated cities and industrial clusters business is concerned. Thank you so much for providing us this opportunity to speak about the infrastructure over here. And we are open for questions if there are any at a later date. Over to you, Nath sir. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Vaibhav. I think very detailed presentation, and certainly integrated industrial ecosystem is so essential in India. You spoke also in details about the reforms during the COVID and the concept of Atmanirbhar Bharat. In fact, we heard from Vaibhav about the good infrastructure, friends, and taking that forward, augmenting good infrastructure, we also require good logistics as well as good supply chain, and that is what we look forward to our next presentation from Mr. Elmar Ockenfels and Ms. Malini Dutt from Antwerp Port Authority for the presentation on Port of Antwerp embedded in your Indo-German supply chain. So over to you, Elmar and Malini.
Thank you, Mr. Nath, and good afternoon to everybody. I've been listening to all these presentations, and I think Mr. Bhosle, Mr. Mittal, Mr. Kohli, truly, with the theme of this session, I was feeling quite uplifted just thinking about, how each of your companies is contributing to India's prosperity. And hopefully 2021 will be a much better year for all of us. On that note, I would also like to thank VDMA and Mr. Nath to give us this opportunity to be a part of this session. And for those of you who don't know what Port of Antwerp is, we are one of the largest seaports in the world. And you may be wondering, okay, Antwerp, Belgium, what is the connection? Because here the audience will mainly be Indians or German companies. So I also actually had my colleague Elmar on board, who represents Germany for us, for the Port of Antwerp. And over the next couple of minutes, I'll show you what a Belgian port, let's say it's a European port, because that's how we like to refer it as, how the Port of Antwerp is embedded in your India-Germany supply chain. Next slide, please. So very quickly, just to introduce ourselves, I am Malini Dutt. I'm a representative of the Port of Antwerp, and I'm based out of Mumbai. And Elmar is actually representing the port in Germany, but he also does Switzerland and more broadly Europe. Next slide, please. So I was very impressed when Dr. Graber also started his presentation, and Mr. Mittal just gave me another cue, where both of them spoke about rethinking of supply chains, diversifying, looking at possibly new ways of, and the supply chain emphasis these days is very interesting. Why? A few things that we've noted down is, of course, everybody's talking about the corona crisis, which has disrupted supply chains. So that in itself should be one of the triggers for you to maybe rethink your supply chain. The second reason, and I have 3 points there, is now over the next couple of months and maybe the next few years, we will observe the trend of deceleration, another concept of decoupling of supply chains, which means that you will have to maintain inventory at various paths closer to customers, which brings me to my next point, which is stock holding. closer to your customer base. Another important aspect could be the integration. I think Mr. Mittal nicely put it, about your various ports being integrated in your supply chain. So integration of sea ports in procurement and distribution logistics could be another trigger for you to maybe reconsider your existing supply chain. Rolling pipelines, this is a nice terminology which I picked up from Elmar as well, where you want your assembly line to be moving. That would maybe enable you to rethink your supply chain. And finally, I think everybody during the corona pandemic at some point or the other was very keen to know कि मेरा goods कहाँ है, where in the chain is my goods. So I think data sharing platforms and digital becomes so important in this aspect when you're thinking of rethinking of supply chain. And we strongly believe that Port of Antwerp at every stage of the process, from when your goods actually leave the factory in India to when they are delivered in Europe or vice versa, has a very important role to play. Let's see how. Next slide, please. Before I begin, just a word on reliability. Because if I am telling you that, we are a very interesting partner that you could consider if you're rethinking supply chains, I think one question that came up this year was, are you reliable? Can I trust on you that my goods will be delivered to my customer? So in this graphic, I'd just like to show you 6 months and the peak 6 months when COVID struck us. This is the data for Jan to June 2020, and of the top 10 European container ports. What you see there is the slight, bar that you can see, a pinkish bar, and a positive sign is of Antwerp port in comparison to all the others which are in red and showing negative. We also grew marginally, whereas a lot of other ports were actually in the negative. And we'll let you know why we grew marginally in the next couple of slides. But the good thing is, what I'd like to tell you is that I'm not saying that we did not suffer. We were also impacted quite a bit, but we took some immediate actions which helped us keep our business running, and in turn help a lot of customers move their cargoes 24/7. So if you move to the next slide, please. So I'll just take you through a step-by-step process of when your goods actually leave your factory to, as I said, when they reach Germany. So this is step 1, goods leaving the factory in India. On the right-hand side, you can see a map of India, and the red marks are actually all the cargo generating and exporting hubs of the country. On the left-hand side, you actually see, a nice diagram which also shows you some shipping lines or carriers, and the services next to it, very well connected to various ports in India. And we have indicated how long it takes for these, from the destinations of these cargo generating hubs, if you take these carriers, to directly go to Antwerp. So we have very direct connections from all parts of India, export generating parts to the Indian ports, and then going to Antwerp, very nicely explained in this particular slide. Next slide, please. So the next step is, of course, the goods are now on the ship and they're moving towards Europe. What we wanted to explain in this particular graphic was, you can see the trade figures for yourself. Antwerp, both export and import wise, is very balanced, and it is one of the major gateways. As I said, it's not only a gateway for Belgium, but for Europe. And when we have a very balanced trade, both inward and outward, what it means is that you benefit rates wise from the shipping lines, because the cargo that the ship is actually delivering at Antwerp and picking up from Antwerp to, say, India and other parts will be very balanced. So the shipping line is in a better position to offer you the best possible rates. That's why we can, we say that we are a main gateway to Europe, also benefiting you cost and time wise. Next slide, please. So the next slide is of step 3. This is when your goods actually reach have reached Europe and are actually traversing towards the towards Antwerp port via the river. Now we are a river port, so we are an inland port. We are actually 80 kilometers inland. What this really means is that you are actually coming very close to the hinterland of Europe. So you do not, it's not like the goods are discharged at a seaport and again you have to, you know, look at further trucking it inland and then to your final destination. So you're saving a lot of cost there itself. Another big benefit is the customs clearance before arrival at the port. And I think this is explained very well. Next slide, please, in the next graphic. So yeah, as I said, that the ship has to travel 80 kilometers inland, which is 6 to 7 hours, which means that as soon as the ship enters the channel, the customs clearance process has already begun. So you're not waiting till, you know, it sails 6 to 7 hours and then starting with customs clearance. So that in itself is a big plus point for you. And even if there are any inspections which are required, you know, because so many times, obviously, the goods are not always declared, okay. There could be some checking. That process is also initiated along the way, along those 6 to 7 hours. So that really helps you in terms of costs and time. Next slide, please. Another interesting thing is that, you know, we'd like to focus on operational excellence. It's in fact one of our main strategic priorities. So like Dr. Grabber also spoke about going digital and digital transformation. This is one of the key aspects in the port of Antwerp as well. And we have very recently started this initiative called Certified Pickup, where as of now, you know, we are using digital to ensure end-to-end transparency of goods. So we have a digital PIN that is required by various supply chain players, be it the shipping line or the trucker who further picks up the good to go to the final destination, as against the initial process of, you know, paperwork and things like that. So we are always focusing to be operationally excellent to save you again, you know, time and cost. Next slide, please. The next aspect is when your goods arrive finally. So the ship has arrived at the terminal in Antwerp. Now the beauty of this is this graphic, because, you know, we are digital these days. We thought graphics is the best way to bring the port closer to you. This is basically, this has a key length of about 5.3 kilometers. And this is a spot where thousands of containers are offloaded each day. So, you know, we try our best to ensure that, you know, this is a congestion-free area so that your goods are not delayed. Next slide, please. You know, I had explained that we were one of the, if you noticed the first 6 months figures, and I said that while everybody was impacted, we were the only port. I am not saying we were not impacted, as I, you know, said in the first place, but we were impacted to a lesser extent. And one of the major reasons, and we even grew positively, one of the major reasons for this is we have a fairly diversified portfolio. So we provide infrastructure. If you could click one more time, please. We provide a very diversified, you know, cargo handling platform. So it's not only about liquid, bulk, or chemicals, but we also have robust infrastructure and equipment for containers, for break bulk, project cargo and steel, for dry bulk, and a lot of storage and other state-of-the-art equipment. Could you click one more time, please? So another thing, you know, why should you consider us as a gateway? I think the figures are there for, and the information is there for everybody to see in terms of our productivity. So we have, for example, the first aspect, 40 crane movements per hour. So imagine the movements are so quick. I believe it is the quickest in Europe, that we are not wasting any time, and very streamlined way the trade is actually progressing. The throughputs of the terminal, also our terminal handling charges, I believe they are 20 to 30% lower in comparison to our competitors in Europe. We are open 24 by 5 days as of now, and even at night. And as I stressed on some aspects, we are quite congestion free. On that note, Elmar, I can see you on screen. As I mentioned before, Elmar is our representative in Germany. I'd like to invite him to possibly take us through the remainder of steps, because I think from now we are getting closer to the journey from Antwerp to Germany. So I think only you can do justice to it. Over to you. And next slide, please.
Thank you, Malini. Good morning from Germany, and thank you for your kind invitation, Mr. Nath. I'm happy to be here joining Malini in presenting our port. Very interesting, having had a look already inside Schmersal, Continental, and Mahindra. Thank you for your presentations, gentlemen. That's exactly what we want, supporting companies like yours in operating their supply chain. Because seaports play a central role within global supply chains. The added value generated in these gateways between continents flows directly into the value chain of an import business, for example. For example, if an e-commerce merchant decides to store the imported goods in a bonded warehouse in the port, and the VAT is only due when the goods are called up, or in case of temperature-controlled transports, fruits or pharmaceuticals, which require seamless control of the cold chain and are stored in cold storage or at one of the numerous storage locations with reefer containers. Next slide, please. Conventional cargo, small quantities of break bulk collected in the hinterland at warehouses connected with a siding, a track where conventional wagons can be loaded. Transported then to the port, arriving at such a rail port, the Antwerp Rail House, for instance, which you see on this slide, bundled and loaded into containers, definitely an interesting option for small volumes. Next slide, please. Now, it's an animation. We have to go to the next one. What you see is the catchment area of the Port of Antwerp. The area includes North Rhine-Westphalia and the neighboring southern regions, Hesse, Rhineland-Palatinate, Baden-Württemberg, and Bavaria. Please continue the animation. And it goes even beyond. Southbound Switzerland and Central and Eastern Europe, Poland, Czech Republic, Slovakia, Austria, and Hungary. These countries are well connected by rail and even by inland waterway. You know that via the River Rhine, the Rhine-Main-Danube channel, the Port of Antwerp is directly connected with the Black Sea, actually. On this map selection left side, you see a part of the British Isles. Smooth transport chains to the UK and Ireland is a matter of heart for the Port of Antwerp. So we still try to establish short sea connections to 5 destinations in Great Britain and 4 destinations in Ireland in order to have an alternative for the suffering road transportation via the channel because of time-consuming customs procedures in course of the Brexit, as you know. But we want to focus now on Germany. Next slide, please. The map below shows the metropolitan region of Frankfurt and Stuttgart, and below a section from the interactive connectivity platform of the Port of Antwerp, showing rail and barge services connecting these regions with the port. You can say these rail and barge services bring the port closer to the points of manufacturing and consumption. Next slide, please. And if we look more into detail, you see the enormous presence of logistics activities for the benefit of people and industry. And that is what is most important for the Port of Antwerp, to contribute to safeguarding the supply chain to these regions, especially in times of disruptions, as Malini described also in the beginning. Next slide, please. An example of a logistics park close to Frankfurt Airport. You certainly know the one or other logistics service providers, very small, written here in that slide, and located here. And Frankfurt is, as I said, well connected as well by barge and rail. Next slide, please. Barge transportation makes 38% of modal shift, and most of these centers of gravity, I name already, is close to inland waterways. That offers sustainable pre- and on-carriage from and to the hinterlands. Next slide, please. Rail connections from the Port of Antwerp exist to many destinations all over Europe. Many of them are connected via rail hubs in the hinterland. We actually try to develop that transport mode, which is most reliable and, of course, sustainable as well. Next slide, please. We are pleased to say that from mid of December, a number of metropolitan regions in Germany will be connected to the port by rail shuttle services on a daily basis. That really is a big step forward, a quantum leap, as it strengthens the competitiveness of the Port of Antwerp enormously. What you also see on this slide are the distances between the metropolitan regions in Germany to various ports in the neighborhood of the Port of Antwerp. And yes, you can see what I said before, the Port of Antwerp is actually the closest to most of the southern regions in Germany. And you have that small Excel sheets about the various connections we have already on a daily, partly on a daily basis, or 3 times or 5 times a week. Next slide, please. The transport chain cannot be separated from the data chain. You as a shipper or forwarder want to have the end-to-end transparency of supply chains. It is obvious which advantages arise for the planning of production and distribution when shipping data from overseas, estimated arrival times at the port, and customs clearance are available in real time. Nexport, an associated company of the Port of Antwerp, operates a data platform on which all supply chain data are collected. A special feature of the Nexport data platform is the unrestricted security of confidential data. The owner of the data is clearly defined. He alone decides whether and which data may be made available to other actors in the chain. Event-specific applications can be purchased on a virtual marketplace to support the documentation and tracking of a supply chain. You are welcome to take a look at the Nexport website and check whether access to the Nexport platform would also be suitable for your import and export supply chain. And the next slide, please, shows the example of an import supply chain where the status is documented in real time, from the recording of import data for customs clearance to the result of scanning and the release of the container for further transport. I refer to what Malini said about the introduction of a certified pickup tool and the complete digitization of the container release process. Now, thank you. Over to you, Malini.
Yeah, maybe I'll request Manohar if you could go to the next slide, because just some parting thoughts. First of all, I hope we've done some justice to explain why Port of Antwerp should be a part of your Indo-German supply chain. But more importantly, I hope you did not miss out that critical information that Elmar gave about LCL consolidation. Since we are talking to a group of medium-sized companies, one thought would be that, these days when you've had supply shocks and demand shocks, we would urge you to rethink the idea of looking at your supply chain, and that is where we would like to partner with you. Hopefully, you look at because you're looking at supplying to Germany, or maybe from Germany to India, would it be a good idea to stock at the Port of Antwerp? And I can tell you, although we are a port based at northwest of Europe, our rates for warehousing are very competitive. So would it be an idea for a group of you to come together, consolidate at the port, and look at distributing to Germany? So on that note, I'm sure the slides would be shared across, and our emails are there on it. Please do get in touch, and we'd be happy to exchange notes. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Malini and Elmar, for the excellent presentation. In fact, one question was there which you have just answered also, Malini, because this was specifically for mid-sized companies or smaller companies who do not have such large volume of cargo. But I think you have mentioned about it. Maybe I will request all our speakers to just switch on the cameras. We are running short of time, but we would just quickly take one question for everyone. So, Krishan, if we could have you also. Okay, let me start with you, Sagar. You mentioned about the remote monitoring. Yes, Krishan, you are there. Good. We cannot see you presently, but we will guide the question to you then. Sagar, coming to you quickly.
Or if you can put my camera on.
Yeah, Manohar will just send you the camera request, Krishan. Sagar, quickly to you, the remote monitoring using the mobile service, Sagar, is that already launched in India?
Yes, we have a trial version which we are using with our customers, and we are trying it out.
Okay. And also, Sagar, you mentioned about safety as a service. Can you just elaborate a little on that, please?
See, actually, the major roadblock in implementing safety is the capital expenditure, which has to be planned at the start. So we are proposing to a couple of companies how we can move away from this model, because many companies are giving us complete projects, right from risk assessment to integration to complete monitoring of the system. So when we are anyway doing the complete integration, right from assessment to the deployment, it also makes sense that we take over the next topic of trying to move into the service as an application forum. So we are in initial talks with few customers, and we want to try and test this out. This is quite new in the safety domain as yet.
Okay. Wish you a lot of success also with this concept, Sagar.
Thank you, Mr. Nath.
Yeah, Krishan, coming to you. We can't see you, but I think you can hear us. So what we would like to hear from you, Krishan, is two questions are there, Krishan. One is when you mentioned about smart factory. So the question is existing manpower. How quickly could they adopt to Industry 4.0 and smart factory? And the second question, Krishan, is, of course, for new machines, making them fit for Industry 4.0 is easier. What about the old legacy machines? How could they be integrated in the smart factory concept, Krishan?
Yeah, so Mr. Nath, apologies for the webcam, but yeah, coming to the questions. Firstly, I think when it comes to moving to the smart factory, industry 4.0, how quickly could the manpower adopt that? So I think there is a very robust kind of a training process that we have when we are introducing all these concepts. Continental being a German global MNC, I think this concepts are working across different locations worldwide. And in India, when we started our footprint, we started with Bangalore, then also started getting these concepts in other plants, including the north region in Gurgaon, etc., Pune. And I think with the right tools and training inputs, it was, I would not say it was a uphill task, but yes, there is a very big focus that Continental already has in upskilling and the training. So those tools were definitely helping us, and our global resources that we could leverage. Coming to your second part of the question, I think that's a tough one. When you are getting into the smart factory concept, I think a level of automation in the machines, if it is inbuilt, that helps then. And if it is more like manual processes, then there is more work to do. In the continental world, I think the business that we are in, there is a very high level of automation that we already have in our manufacturing processes. So coming into Bangalore, which is our central electronic plant, it was much easier. In Gurgaon also, I think there was some work which was required, but then there is a set of machines which is more on the manual side, where I think there is deployment of tools like sensors, smart sensors, that can be done, and then you can integrate it to a level of smart factory concept. But if you have to go to the level 3, then I think there will be some limitations, Mr. Nath, if we have historic legacy equipment.
Right. Thank you. Thank you so much, Krishan. Yes, I think that was quite helpful. Sagar, one question just has come in, is that BIS is adopting the 32 machine safety standards and mandatory compliance. Do we still need to follow process of CE marking for Europe, or is there any thoughts to introduce a similar marking in India?
No, we need to clarify here. These standards are for particular machines, and when you talk of CE certification, it is a slightly different topic in itself. So we should not combine these two. CE would be and would still continue to be a separate topic other than these two standards. But the only thing, once you have those standards and if you implement them on the machines, it would easily help you to qualify towards much of the requirements of the CE in terms of safety and other aspects.
Okay. So the CE marking remains in place and the standards also. So there is sort of no interlinkage between the two.
It's more of a, you can say, a support to get your machines updated to qualify for CE, you can say.
Okay. Thank you. Vaibhav, coming to you, you spoke about the integrated ecosystem. Now, when companies are setting up facility in these industry park, Vaibhav, what about the availability of manpower, and are there any training facility also available for the companies to adopt or to get trained workforce, Vaibhav?
So, Mr. Nath, excellent question, and I must compliment the person who asked this question. What we do is, when we do any of our infrastructure, we look at it from two aspects. One is that where we are putting up our infrastructure, what is the location of that park? Whether it is surrounded by some of the large, either training institutes or universities and technical institutes. And the second, what we can do internally within our projects. So all our integrated projects, as I told you, are focused on the living and life aspect of it. So as part of the living and life aspect, one of the important cornerstones of our development is to provide skill development institutes as well as training facilities for the companies. So Mahindra World City, Chennai already has, vocational training institutes inside Mahindra World City. Apart from that, we do have, we are located at a corridor which is surrounded by a lot of engineering universities and colleges within a periphery of 5 to 10 kilometers of the project. Mahindra World City Jaipur also has India's first and largest skill development university, which is funded through a Swiss company. So it's a Swiss-based technical, education skill development university, which is there within Mahindra World City Jaipur, and they have 3 campuses, including both post-engineering, pre-engineering, as well as full skill development part of it. So it is one of the most intrinsic part of the overall ecosystem which we create, and skill development, we understand, is one of the most critical aspects of a key of the success of these parks. So we do focus upon all of these when we develop these parks.
Thank you, Vaibhav, for the clarification. Coming to the last question, Elmar and Malini. So due to the pandemic now, there have been a lot of disruptions that have taken place. In fact, some of the companies have also complained about or mentioned about there are container unavailability, not getting shipping slots also. So just wanted to take your quick view on that. Has situation normalized to some extent? And how's the situation at Port of Antwerp, Malini and Elmar?
Elmar, can I take it? Okay.
Yes.
So while we may not be the right authority to comment on it, but I will give you an answer. Given that, I was hosting an event recently where we called, coincidentally, a German shipping line, Hapag-Lloyd, the Belgian MD on board, and they have regular services to India. You would have heard of, the blank sailings and equipment imbalance and things like that. So one of the things he was saying is that no doubt, it happened in the past and during the pandemic, there have been lessons learned and it has been a learning, I think, for all of us in 2020. What we had done immediately at the Port of Antwerp is we had set up a COVID task force, which is why, you've seen our figures as well.
Malini, I think we have lost you. Elmar, would you like to continue? I think we lost Malini, we lost the connection. Yes.
She back again.
Power failure.
Yeah.
Yes, okay. Regarding the pandemic, as you know, as Malini mentioned already, we have a work group from the beginning, safeguarding the 100% operational availability, and so of course we are in close connection to the shipping companies and to the sea terminals. And yes, what you mentioned, the availability of containers, we have that disruptions in the global supply chains, and yes, that has to be observed to a certain extent.
But situation is more or less now coming back to normal at Port of Antwerp, Elmar?
Yes, I would say, and you have seen the figures. We expect not that that increase this year, of course, but a moderate decrease, and so we honestly profit also from a boom, so to say, on the e-commerce market. Yeah, you know that that is well known that these companies didn't suffer so much from the Corona crisis, and that affects actually also the Port of Antwerp. I must say, in that way, that it is a central gateway also for these kind of goods coming in.
Right. Thank you. Thank you, Alman. Malini, we lost you. Would you like to just conclude quickly? Yes.
Yeah, very quickly. I don't know how much you heard, but I was just trying to say that in our last session that we hosted, the German carrier Hapag-Lloyd was just saying that this year has been good learnings for us. So I think everybody was really quite rattled when blank sailing started happening. And I think, there were a lot of equipment imbalances, but he is seeing the situation improve as of now with, it also happened because I think, there was a lot of congestion in our own ports. And after a point, I think all the big carriers like MSC, Maersk, etc., they said that we will not call on some of the Indian ports. Instead, use, maybe even Middle East as a hub. So right now, I think to end my piece on a very positive note, I think the situation is getting better. But there have been some learnings from what has happened in the past couple of months. So yeah, we continue to be hopeful.
Right. Thank you. I think that ends it on a very positive note, Malini. So let me conclude now. I would like to thank our chief guest today, Dr. Stefan Graber, Deputy Head of Mission, German Embassy, our esteemed speakers, Sagar, Krishan, Vaibhav, Elmer, and the charming Malini for the excellent presentations. I would also like to convey my thanks to all our participants who joined us in large number. In fact, quite a large number of the participants also stayed right till the end. So thank you very much for being present. Friends, as we come out of the festive season, I think the next few months are going to be critical for sustainable economic and industrial growth of India. If we have to grow at 8% in the financial year 21-22, we need to see a quick rebound happening in India. Let me conclude with a quote from Charles Darwin. It is not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent, but the one most responsive to change. So I think this is the time companies need to think, reboot themselves for the future and for further difficult conditions that may rise. So wishing everyone a safe and relaxing weekend. Stay safe, stay well, stay connected, and all the very best for the future. And thank you for joining us. And thank you all our partners for partnering with VDMA for this event today. Thank you. Have a nice weekend. Goodbye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Yeah.